Hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Girard, a more than audio podcast. We're here in Vancouver, Canada, in the podcast recording studio in Cambie Village, and I've got a super awesome guest with me today. He's a conscientious and extremely self-motivated individual who is always learning and educating himself on new developments in his field, either at ease working alone or as a member of a team. Prides himself on the ability to remain focused, punctual, and organized under pressure. And his previous work demonstrated in his professionalism and capability to deliver projects and complete tasks in a timely and on-budget manner. Please join me in welcoming Zoran. Welcome, Zoran.
Well, thank you. Thank you for such a great introduction. I really appreciate that. It's a beautiful day, and it's my pleasure to be here with you.
Great, super excited to have you here. So we'll go into the questions. And so question one is, tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
I'm a filmmaker and a producer first and foremost. I'm also a visual artist. I've been in Vancouver for over 35 years, and originally started painting when I was in my early years, and in that transition I moved to Vancouver. I was pursuing painting, and one of my landlords on West End, he was a renowned local artist who was my mentor, and slowly, due to unforeseen circumstances, one of them that in my building on West End, we had most of the crew and cast from 21 Jump Street that was being filmed at the time, with Johnny Depp and Richard Grieco, Tom DeLuise, and so on. So what happened is that I got involved with that group, and interacting. I always had a love for cinema, and started filming and expressing myself to the visual arts, and that led to my career in filmmaking, and here we are talking about it. So
great, yeah. Just a note for our audience, Zoran and I met here in Vancouver recently at the Polygon Gallery, just attending an opening there. But we had already booked for recording, and we just kind of ran into each other, so maybe it's fate. Question two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
Observation. I believe observation. It's that was installed in me by first and foremost my grandparents and my parents. All my grandparents are survivors of the World War II, and they always told me and guided me in a way that to be upfront, ask questions, and observe, and so that's one of the key traits.
Great. And another note, if you're liking the trajectory of this episode, please check out the last video episode with Angela Fama. She's a great Vancouver-based artist. So number three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
I do really enjoy telling stories. I do like expressing myself visually, either if it's a single image or a series of images, if it's a performance, if it's an audio, a sound, something that really sparks an interest in me, and I want to share it with the audience. I want to share it with the viewers. I want to also present it in a way that the large masses can take it and enjoy it.
Great. Number four, some people struggle with, but the question is, what does your future look like?
Future is always unforeseen. You never know what will happen next. But and I don't try to do a great amount of risks, nor do I want to play safe. For me, it's that medium lane that's been working for me, is like take approximate risks when the risks are needed to be taken, and then also fall back and try to use it kind of a slow time. Like, for a great example is during the time of COVID. Just leading to COVID, I produced and directed a feature film. and nobody knew in 2019 when we launched the film Friends Like These, that's playing on Amazon Prime, it's playing on Tubi TV, YouTube, and several other VODs. Nobody about one of us knew that the film is just going to have that success in such a short time. And then COVID happened, and people started staying in and watching online VODs, and then just like propelled us to some unimaginable levels, and so that and then but also during that time I could not take a risk and produce or direct anything because there was no access to talent, there was no access to locations, everything was on a lockdown. So I played it safe in a way that I was looking for next project that I can develop during that slow time, which I did, and that's the project that I'm working on right now, and hopefully it will be that another project that will gain viewership and success on a film festival circuit, and yeah, we'll see. So it's unforeseen, but there are some indicators how things can go which way direction. So yeah.
Nice. Number 5, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
Place in the sense of being here in the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast, it's ideal. I'm forever grateful to my parents for deciding to move to Vancouver, because that's been so instrumental in my work, also for my younger brother and his career. For me especially, because I was introduced to many different people. I also attended Emily Carr, which I'm still directly or indirectly involved. I was on the board of Emily Carr as one of the senator, and now I'm an alumni association member, and officially an ambassador, a capacity of an ambassador. So everywhere I go, I always represent and always try to connect with Emily Carr alum, fellow alum that I keep in touch with. So the location is really significant. It's not just the physical, your greenery, your mountains, your hiking trails, but it's also the proximity to water, the proximity to some amazing neighborhoods, also the traditional unceded lands that I value the most, because that's our great history. That's part of what makes this place so great.
I often chat with my guests about land acknowledgement because it's such an interesting topic. I was recently in Lisbon at a conference and had to make a decision about how I would approach land acknowledgement for that conference. Do I acknowledge the lands in Vancouver when I'm somewhere else? And I think the trend is to do that actually, which is interesting, I think. So it's just kind of where we are now. So if you had to start from the beginning, what advice would you give your former younger self?
Just keep doing what I really love and enjoy. That's I don't have any regrets in a sense of I wish I would have, could have, should have. My sometimes regret is only that I should have done something slightly different, try different versions, but maybe because of the time, because of the circumstances, I wasn't able to. But still, nothing is perfect, but what was made or created at that moment, in that spur of the moment, was good enough. So it's just like trying different, if there is time, if there's place, and also financing, why not try something different than what you have intended, just to see for the sake how it works and how it is.
Great. And what's a day in your life like?
I try to have a routine if I could. Usually starts not necessarily in the morning, but now because we have daylight pretty early, I try to be up and make myself a nice herbal tea that I enjoy while checking my emails and also looking at my schedule. I still keep the daily table handwritten planner. I'm not really into planning on my phone or on my desktop, and so just like overview at what points in the morning, where and what I need to do to accomplish those tasks, and then move on to another one. If I'm filming that day, is it in the morning or is it in the afternoon? What, if everything is ready, the gear is ready. If I'm meeting with someone, where, how, and what, and that's his basic routine. But it starts usually with a nice herbal tea, just to make things easier in a day, just to hydrate and have a clear thoughts and smooth planning for the day ahead. So.
Well, that's super interesting, because I think a lot of people would be curious, for a filmmaker, what is their day in the life like? But it sounds like there are a lot of kind of preparatory pieces for the day to make sure the day goes right.
Exactly. There, as I mentioned, it's depending on if it's a production day, if it's just like a meeting day. For example, this morning I got up, I checked my emails. There were a couple emails that they needed to be attended. I also saw that we are meeting at this time of the day, and then I was like, okay, just like when I'm gonna finish everything, wrap up, have a bite to eat, and head out, and then to be here. And I managed to get here a bit early than expected, so it was cool. So it was just like a unwinding and thinking about this process that we're doing right now, and not that much about the questions, but just like the conversation, the flow, and interactivity that we're conducting right now. So
perfect. Number 8 is lifelong learning is a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
I really enjoyed that you mentioned that in your introduction. I really appreciate it, and that's the thing, is being focused and keeping the pulse on technology. I'm in that field where I can be traditionalist and do the film, your celluloid, or being a fully in depth with digital technology, which is forever changing now with the GPT, AI stuff. It's just like mind blowing. Like even this morning, I'm reading about how the new AI can replicate the hair with NVIDIA processor. And tomorrow, for interesting fact, I'm meeting with a colleague who is keeping up to date with all of those AI stuff, because he, number one, is an animator, he's a creative person, and he's on board for my next feature project, and we have an animation sequence. So it's like, is it something that we can use and utilize in our next production? What involves, what kind of equipment do we need? Do we need to get like new laptops and processors, or and also what's the cost, so we can plan it and budget it all in the production. So yeah, that's the thing, is to be focused and also keeping the my professional capabilities and knowing what's out there, so I can use it in the next production.
I'm glad to hear you talk about AI, because I was on a panel discussion about AI about a week ago at our Vancouver Art Fair, and there was a lot of kind of panic and kind of need for immediacy around AI. But like you were talking about earlier, this need to kind of take things as they go and kind of work in a consistent way. And I've always felt like even with AI and even with the immediacy of AI, we need to take that approach of consistently dealing with it, and also looking at precedent and incorporating that into what we do. So I think maybe that's a kind of a fringe view that I have, but I'm glad to hear you talk about AI.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is, what tools do you use? Do you use both digital and analog tools? You were talking about the calendar.
Yes, I'm really hands-on. I like to keep notes by hand. It just keeps me grounded in a way. The thought flow. I can type well. Thinking about it, I got an award in high school for typing, and that was when we were typing on those IBM Daisy Wheel typewriter machines. So, but for me, it's just the brainstorming, the flow of your hand, the body, and ideas, and then making the charts. That's my game. And so, yeah, I can be traditionalist also when it comes to, as I mentioned, the cinema. I wish I could shoot more film celluloid, but unfortunately, because of the cost. Interestingly, today, for a fact, I was just coming from the main street because I have a colleague who's off to Europe, and one of his point and shoot 35mm cameras just is not performing well. It's overexposing. So I popped it to a couple of the thrift shops just to see what they have, because you never know. And he just shoots 35, and we were just talking about it that digital is great, but it will never replace that kind of a quality and that feel, the grain. That's the whole thing. And then it applies also for video. I mean, it's great that people can shoot with their iPhones and Androids. And you know, their films have been made for now over like close to 10 years, you know, with Tangerine shot of iPhone 5S, and the quality is remarkable. But sometimes it's just like, you know, you want to use the tape, or you want to use the beta, or any other like a high definition format, because that's this certain look you're going for. So yeah, it's keeping the tabs on both. I mean, the film is not, it hasn't been changed a lot lately. I mean, Kodak is coming back with some new film stocks and reintroducing some old film stocks, but it's just, you know, it's always good to roll up to spool a roll of film and just shoot and look at the whole process and see how that all turn out, and with the exposures and the cameras and the lenses you have access to.
Nice, yeah. We try to show an appreciation for traditional film photography in the studio here. This image that I'm pointing to back here is from my dad's Hanoi book, Hanoi Calling, representing 1,000 years of Hanoi, the celebration of their birthday, and part of a commission project. He's an artist represented by Monty Clark Gallery here in Vancouver. So the next question is, how do you deal with work-life balance?
Work-life balance, that's a good question, and I try to not overdo it and take necessary breaks. A step away, and it's good for so many reasons. It's good to refresh, keep new ideas flowing, and also not to create any stress or anxiety. I've been managing pressure well. I never really had any issues where I had to retreat or, you know, hold things. I tried to follow through, but at times you just have to say, I can't do it right now, and then then regroup. I think it's more honest approach than just really grinding yourself to extreme and then not being able to perform at the end. So my thing is always balancing it well. When I need to take a break, I do take a break. I do take, you know, weekends off. I always try to have Sundays just for myself, whether it's just going for a walk, meeting up with a colleague, us going for a hike, rehashing some stuff. Different colleagues at different times. One of them in particularly is a long time colleague, and he's a photographer, so we just meet up and talk about photography projects, because we go way back 28 years ago when we're doing like a fun photography projects from New Westminster to Burnaby, and then, you know, just like and then just relax. I mean, that's the key. I mean, we have to, in this everyday stress driven world, fast-paced world, we just need to sometimes consider ourselves and say, listen, it's worth taking that break, because as I said, you're just gonna exhaust yourself to the limit. So
I do that by kayaking. I love kayaking at Deep Cove in North Vancouver, just near about an hour outside of Vancouver. You can have this kind of beautiful, serene space to kayak in, and it's kayaking season now. I'm getting geared up to go out there. So we're just past halfway now. If you weren't doing what you do now, what would you be doing?
I guess I would be painting. And that, because that's my first exposure to the art world as a 7-year-old in the former Yugoslavia, where I started, and then moving to Canada. That's something that I really enjoy. I don't do it as much as I intend to, but that's another skill of mine, or artistic skills. So.
Great, yeah. So what would you not like to do with your career?
Be a sellout. That's the thing. I just keeping to the core and idealism that I have, and just not selling out. I just don't feel like that's me. That will be honest for myself, true and honest to myself, and then to people who I work with. I see at times it's a lure for some, but I just just quickly, in 2000, just prior to 2000, 1998, I started a production, fresh out of my car, I started a production company with another alum, and then we got a business partner on board, another creator who just moved to Canada, and we lined up we were working for ICBC, creating the safety driving videos for youth. And then there was an opportunity for me to go to Los Angeles in 2000, and both of my business partners, they were so helpful and supportive. They said, just go. I made this short film, it did really well. I got inquiries and a visa, a work visa in the works, and so I moved there, and I just realized that it's all great. Unfortunately, 9/11 happened, so I had to come back. I stayed till about the Christmas time of 2001, and I moved back. But for that year and a half while I was in Los Angeles, it was great to see how I want to balance myself, where I want to place myself. Do I want to really be exposed to the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, or if I want to be working on those lesser known productions that are more indie scene was exploding. That was like a 90s, from mid 90s to the late 90s to 2000s. So there was a lot of interactions and meeting different people and working on their projects. And so that was a thing, and I really appreciate, and I like that I stayed focused on what I wanted to do and what I really enjoyed, instead of just like selling out and becoming something that I would not be happy.
Yeah, I mean, when I hear the word selling out, I think of this kind of common thread that we have, which is like doing something that aligns with your values, aligns with your beliefs. It's really hard to kind of do something that contrasts against your values, right? So yeah, to me, that's what selling out is really kind of not considering your values. Okay, so what's your favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Oh my God, there's so many of them. I mean, I'm gonna sound like an Instagram, one of the stories, but I always like the thing that I learned, like in Los Angeles, is you are as good as your. They would say, like some producers would say, you as good to the filmmakers. They said, you as good as your last picture. So you are always good as your last project, and you can always build on that. So if you're successful on your last project, and you hit the points, and you hit the stride, and you're presenting well, then you just have to build on that, and because there's nobody else to blame, and so that's the thing, and just go, maybe just like Nike, just do it, and on Instagram, you probably on the stories you see James Cameron and David Lynch saying, just grab a camera and do something. If you're a filmmaker, I'm just talking to all the filmmakers, budding filmmakers out there who are listening to this amazing podcast. It's just like grab a camera, doesn't matter if it's an iPhone or Android, and just shoot something and then watch it, and then see what was great about it, and be honest and see, this didn't work, and let me shoot it again and see. and balance it. And if you have access to the software or somebody who has access and capabilities to edit this stuff, put it together and just put it out there and get the feedback. Instagram is a great a venue or a platform where you can post and get the feedback and ask in your little description, just ask like, what do you think? Let me know, DM me, and get that feedback and just build on that. And that's a great way to learn and progress, and progression is a great thing for any artist. Is just to see where you started and where you are at the moment and where you could go to what heights.
I like to say, I really like this idea that every project is a success or has some successful elements to it, and you can work with those and ramp up based on those. Like I think that's a real kind of a positive message that doesn't always get uncovered so clearly. So I think that's great. If you had to pick one word to describe yourself, what word would you choose?
Versatile. I'm a little bit now blushing. It's like versatile because I try to dabble to my best, whether that's filmmaking, directing, producing, visual arts, photography, interaction with people, meeting up with people, talking, setting up different, if I'm just an intermediary for different productions, seeing how that goes, who I can match up with, and just, that's versatile.
Versatile, nice. What keeps you up at night?
Now this birds chirp because it's the sun rises early, so the birds are chirping if I want it on a kind of a metaphysical level. But depending what stage, if I'm in a production of something, it will be maybe odd thing that just pops up in my mind, and it just keeps like oh, was this taken care of, that kind of stuff. But other than that, it's just like without any gravel or anything like that. I don't take any supplements or anything like that. I have a really smooth sleep and sound sleep, so nothing really majorly keeps me awake besides like the noise or something like that. So
we had Keith Tam on the show, who is based in Hong Kong, but he was in town for the Big TED conference, and so he came on the show. He came into the studio to record with us, and I told him I sleep really well, and he's like, "You've got to share your secret." I think a lot of people struggle with that. Okay, so what's a dream you're chasing?
My dream always been to tell as many stories I can, share those stories with as many people I can, share the knowledge, share the passion. I just experienced something really profound last month. I was invited to go to China, to Chongqing. Amazing, the place where you can see the past, the present, and the future. And so I was working on a project I was invited to direct there, and then also the local university that trains students in broadcasting, in journalism, and video and film production. They asked me to come to the Southwest University and host a few lectures on lighting and cinematography, and also directing. And so just that was amazing thing that I really enjoyed, is like sharing that knowledge and seeing the passion in those young students as they individually approached me afterwards, after each of the lectures, and shared something what they're working on passionately. And I just realized no matter where you are, if you're in North America or if you're in Asia, there's that common thing, it's the passion. And what concluded the whole thing is a beautiful event that the deans and the staff of the Southwest University put together to celebrate the visit, and so to make it more official, I invited the Consul General of Canada, who is stationed in Chongqing, Jose Sia, and he was there, and he was sitting also to a Chinese dignitary who he knows for the last 9 years, and he in the middle of this event, he turns to me and he says, "This is the longest I've talked to my counterpart from China," because usually when they have those delegations and meetings and everything that's being they've been instructed by the Ottawas on political and economical level, which Chinese delegation have heard it, so most of the things last like several minutes and that's it. He says, now we've been talking for the last hour and a half non-stop, and it's the arts and culture that brought them together, and that's just fascinating. That level, when you see that there's something else rather than just talking. But the politics, but it's arts and culture that unite us. It's just, that's fascinating. And sharing the knowledge and the passion. That's another thing that's really
great. Final stretch. What inspires you?
A lot of things inspire me. I'm visually stimulated all the time. Something it's either from taking the snapshots, and that's the beauty of having access to iPhone, and this comparing to me 20 some years ago before the iPhones, where I had point and shoot camera, or I had my Pentax K1000. It would be just like taking those like slide shots sometimes, or just like a regular 35mm, and then running to Roland Drugs or Bow Photo or ABC Photo and trying to get those rolls developed, and then looking at this idea but now with the iPhone, it's just like you snap it. And then another level is Instagram, where I post on a daily basis something that inspires me, stimulates me, and I'm like, oh, this is I want to share. And then you get a feedback. I mean, yesterday I was just like getting a cable replaced for my MacBook, and I was at the Apple Store downtown, and just the staircase just leading up in a granite stone. With a sliver of light coming in, with a building across, just like stirred up some emotions, and I was just like, this is fascinating, because it feels like in a temple of technology. And so I just posted, or the other day I was at just my first beach venture with few colleagues at the Sunset Beach, and just look, just a snapshot from my vista, down on the ground, enjoying the sunshine, and just like seeing across onto the Vanier Park, and just like that, just hearing feedback from a few colleagues saying like, oh, this is where this is, what's this, and that kind of stuff. So those are the little elements that stimuli that play the factor in my life.
And part of it is sharing that personal journey that you're on, right? Like I know I was talking to you about it, like I was seeing your social media stuff come through, of being in China, and not just being in China, but a lot of these kind of these key moments that traditionally you might need some kind of ceremony to share it, and now we can just share it so easily, and everybody can find out about it. It's kind of magical. So 19 is any advice you'd like to share?
Just keep doing what just do as much as what you like to do, and be passionate about it. I know some people want to cut the chase and get to the financial benefits. They're great, don't take me wrong, but learning the craft, learning the trade, building the audience, mastering your skills, I strongly believe those are the first and foremost much more valuable than just the cash, the reward. And those are the things I abide by, and they help me greatly. That's like a guide.
I probably live an ideal life, but generally I only do things for money that I would do not for money. Like if I would do them not for money, then I know that it's good enough for me. So that makes things more what's the word? That makes me a perfectionist in a way, but at the same time, I get so much gratification out of it. So the final question is number 20. How do our listeners keep tabs on you? How do we follow you? What's our call to action?
I shamelessly dropped that I have Instagram. That you can tap into my world and see what's going on. It's Attention Van. The handle is Attention Van.
And I love that handle because it's so you want to follow it, you know. That's the one.
It's a long story. I'm just gonna leave it like that. So I ended up keeping it because I wasn't even sure, like, exactly like 10 years ago, that if I'm gonna like continue it. I'm at times really anti social media. I was only looking to keep my Facebook and my YouTube because I can show my videos, and Facebook because I can keep in touch with my colleagues, high school, elementary school, people from all over the world that they encountered in one way or the other, worked with, and some family as well, because they don't use emails, and then Instagram came in, and I resisted to TikTok, and I never really developed that, or Twitter. But just those three are good enough for me. And and on Facebook, Zoran Dragel, Silent J. You can look me up, or I believe there's going to be some description in for this podcast. So yeah, you can look me up and add me, and I'll add you, and then we can interact. And if you as I mentioned to anybody and everybody that I interact with, if you do have any questions privately and you want to ask me, by all means do DM me, and if I can help you or assist you or give you some insightful information, I'll gladly do it. Like my doors are always open, virtual or physical. So do let me know.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Zoran.
Thanks.
Such a pleasure to have.
Likewise.
Based in Vancouver, it's so hard to find these key voices that we need to have on the show, and so just by chance running into you this way, it's a true blessing. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much as well. And it's always by chance, serendipity, always lead to some great moments, and possibly future collaborations and interactions. So thank you very much.
Thanks.